In the vast, unending expanse of space, where time seems to stretch out endlessly, the Earth is but a pale blued, fragile, yet brimming with life. In 1961, President John F. Kennedy's challenge to land a man on the moon and return him safely to Earth set the course for one of humanity's most ambitious undertakings. Through the next decade, the Apollo program would propel mankind beyond the boundaries of our home planet, facing the unknown with a mixture of trepidation and wonder. By 1969, the world watched as Apollo 11 touched down on the lunar surface, Neil Armstrong's first steps forever etched into history as one small step for a man, one giant leap for mankind. But with Apollo 13, space exploration would face its greatest test not on the surface of the moon, but in the cold, dark void of space itself. A mission intended to be another remarkable chapter in human achievement would soon evolve into a gripping tale of survival, perseverance, and ingenuity. The space race was a journey not just of technology, but of the human spirit. For decades, the question loomed: could humans reach the moon, the very object of our curiosity, our inspiration, our dreams? Apollo 13 was supposed to be a continuation of that dream, to land once again on the lunar surface, to gather samples, and to return triumphant. But beyond the technological feats, beyond the hardware and rockets, the Apollo missions were something much more. They were a test of human character. In the swirling darkness of space, with no air to breathe and no ground to walk on, the Apollo astronauts faced not just the threat of technical failure, but the very fragility of life itself. The Apollo program wasn't just about reaching the moon. It was about showing humanity what it could accomplish when it worked together, when it believed in the impossible. And Apollo 13, though it would not reach its destination, would demonstrate humanity's greatest strengths in the face of disaster. On board Apollo 13 were 3 men who had trained for this moment their entire lives. Commander Jim Lovell, a seasoned astronaut with 2 previous missions under his belt, was determined to make this mission a success. Fred Hayes, the lunar module pilot, was eager to finally set foot on the moon, following in the footsteps of his predecessors. And Jack Swigert, who had only joined the mission days before launch, was about to prove that readiness and adaptability could overcome even the most unexpected challenges. The objective was clear. Apollo 13 was on a mission to the moon. They were to travel the 240,000 miles from Earth, enter lunar orbit, and explore the lunar surface. It would have been another monumental achievement in the human race's quest to explore the unknown. But the journey soon turned from anticipation to terror. In the cold, indifferent silence of space, a critical failure, one that would threaten the lives of the crew, began to unfold. April 13, 1970. The crew was just over 2 days into their journey to the moon. The mission seemed routine, a controlled spaceflight with all systems operating normally. But in an instant, everything changed. Inside the spacecraft, as the astronauts carried out routine tasks, a sudden, deafening explosion shattered the quiet. The hull of the service module, the lifeblood of the spacecraft's propulsion and oxygen supply, had ruptured. A massive oxygen tank exploded, releasing gas into space and threatening to tear the spacecraft apart. The crew was jolted, their hearts racing, their minds grappling with the unfathomable. They were 200,000 miles from Earth, with no way to repair the damage in deep space, and the spacecraft losing power and oxygen. It was not a matter of if they would survive, but whether they could somehow find a way to make it back home. For the crew aboard Apollo 13, The moment of explosion was the first in a series of harrowing decisions. They quickly realized they had two choices: abandon their mission to the moon and return home, or risk the possibility of becoming part of space's silent graveyard. The severity of the situation set in. Their spacecraft was no longer capable of supporting them for the remaining days of the mission. Oxygen was leaking into space, power was draining from the systems, and the lunar module, designed for short-term use, was their only hope for survival. But Apollo 13 would not be defined by the disaster that struck. It would be defined by the response to it. As the astronauts battled to conserve oxygen, energy, and life support, a team of experts back on Earth worked tirelessly in mission control, determined to figure out a way to bring the men home. With their lives hanging in the balance, every minute was critical. The engineers at Mission Control were faced with a monumental task, not simply to fix a problem, but to solve one in real time with lives on the line. Gene Kranz, flight director, gathered his team and set one simple rule: failure was not an option. They couldn't just fix the spacecraft. They had to find a way to adapt it, to use what was available in the spacecraft's cargo hold, from duct tape to spare parts, to fashion a makeshift carbon dioxide scrubber to prevent the astronauts from suffocating. They had to find a way to get the astronauts home without enough power, without enough oxygen, and without enough certainty. With no blueprint and no precedent for this kind of emergency, the engineers at Mission Control found themselves in the unknown. Yet, they did not panic. They worked together, relying on their expertise and resourcefulness to find solutions. They weren't just astronauts in space. They were pioneers, and their spirit of cooperation would carry them through. Even as they faced dire circumstances, the crew of Apollo 13 refused to succumb to despair. Every decision they made was a matter of life and death, but their resolve was stronger than the weight of the crisis they were facing. Jim Lovell's calm leadership, Fred Hayes' technical expertise, and Jack Sweigert's adaptability were their best tools. But their greatest asset was something far more intangible: their ability to keep faith in one another and the team back on Earth. As they turned their course for home, they had to execute one of the most critical maneuvers of the mission: a trans-Earth injection burn, a delicate process that would set them on the path back to Earth. Any miscalculation could send them off course, into the vastness of space or into the deadly heat of re-entry. Yet, despite the odds, the burn was successful. They were on their way home. After 4 days of unimaginable stress, the crew of Apollo 13 splashed down in the Pacific Ocean on April 17, 1970. As the recovery team pulled the astronauts from the capsule, they were greeted with cheers, applause, and the gratitude of an entire world that had followed their ordeal. Against all odds, they had made it home. Apollo 13 had not succeeded in its original mission, but in a far more important way, it had succeeded. It was a mission that proved the human spirit, the resilience of teamwork, and the power of collaboration under pressure could overcome even the gravest of challenges. Today, Apollo 13 is remembered not just as a disaster, but as a miracle of human ingenuity, resourcefulness, and courage. It is a testament to what can be accomplished when people come together, when engineers, astronauts, and support teams put their minds and hearts into solving a problem that seems insurmountable. It is a story of cooperation, a story of how the world can unite in the face of adversity to achieve the unthinkable. The lessons of Apollo 13 continue to resonate today, in every field of science, in every industry, in every life or death situation where the stakes are high and the odds are against you. The legacy of Apollo 13 is a legacy of hope, of perseverance, and of the undying belief that no problem is too great when humans work together.